Welcome to the Mobile Games Playbook in association with Liftoff. Join us as we uncover the latest trends in user acquisition, monetization, and mobile game design.
Hello, and welcome to the Mobile Games Playbook. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. This is a podcast all about what makes a great mobile game, what is and isn't working for mobile game designers, and all of the latest trends. I am your host, John Jordan, and in today's episode, we are looking to what's going to be happening in 2024, so a very exciting one to have. And joining us as our experts in what's happening, we have Wilhelm Voutilainen and Kalle Heikkinen, who are both chief game analysts at GameRefinery by Liftoff. How's it going, guys?
Yeah, it's going really well. Thanks for asking, Jordan. It's really snowy here in Helsinki, so I love it.
I was just in Helsinki this week, and I was surprised how cold and snowy it was. So there we go. Good. So, this is pretty straightforward. These are always the exciting podcasts to do, the looking forward with the crystal balls and what's going to happen and all that sort of stuff, because no one knows if you're going to be wrong. We can always listen back in 6 months' time and see how right you were. But this is the fun stuff. So I think we're going to kick off with some games to look forward to, because that's always the most interesting bit, isn't it? That we have some titles in mind that we're looking forward to playing. So, who wants to start us off on those?
Well, I can go first. So, I think we could start with a genre that is not discussed that much in the mobile scene. So, racing. So, there's a new title coming up, getting a global release, hopefully next year. That is called Racing Master. It was launched in China this summer and has had a relatively good year this far. So racing space is something that has been quite stagnant in recent years, but this is a title that could bring some new blood to the genre. So it comes from NetEase, and also Codemasters has been collaborating with the game. And looks just gorgeous. And yeah, just a couple of things to highlight about that one is that it has a very strong focus on a story-based career mode, which is quite interesting. A lot of customization options for cars, and I guess one interesting tidbit is that the game gradually suggests the player to lower the level of control assistance as he plays more and more the game. So that's kind of an interesting one there.
I think we have been definitely waiting for a huge racing hit to finally come to the Western market, and yeah, I agree. The Racing Master looks beautiful, and of course there's other upcoming racing games too, like Disney Speedstorm, for example, more of just arcade racing game from Gameloft. That is actually looking quite good as well. I think it was supposed to release already this month, but I think they postponed it to the January of 2024. But yeah, it's maybe we will finally get something going on in the racing space in the West.
I guess it's one of those genres that can be quite hard to innovate in, because you sort of either go down the hyper realistic route, which is which sort of is what everyone wants. Basically, people who make those games are normally massive petrol heads, so they sort of want to make the most realistic thing, and then you end up with something that's so realistic that sort of hardly anyone can play it, and that doesn't fit so well on mobile compared to PC, does it? So I guess then you sort of well, how are we doing that with arcade, or it becomes, I guess from a design point of view, you're much more limited than you maybe would be in other sort of genres.
Or then you just have to take the theme and bring it back to a totally new genre, like they did with Chrome Valley Customs and Match 3. So.
Cool, Wilhelm, one from you. What have you got for us?
So I think we could look at upcoming the RPGs. So of course RPG space has been interesting pretty much every year. Last year we had Diablo Immortal and lots of other interesting games as well. But some upcoming ones definitely interesting. Lost Ark Mobile. So Lost Ark used to be a really popular game when it was released on PC. So it is kind of top-down MMORPG type of a game. It used to be really popular in West. I think it's still really popular in Korea. So that's interesting when it's going to be released on mobile. Same for Path of Exile. So, one of the biggest competitors for the PC Diablo games, and going of this kind of like interesting free-to-play game on PC, but having no pay-to-win, so paying for convenience. And I think it's going to be the same. I think they announced that it's going to be the same on mobile as well. So it's going to be really interesting how will they compete against Diablo Immortal, which has this, pay-to-win elements there. And of course, the monetization challenges then, if we look at, because all of these games, all of these upcoming games, these Lost Ark and Path of Exile, they are both single character RPGs. So you're not forming a team of characters. And those traditionally have not been that successful on mobile because it's really hard to monetize them. All the top monetizing RPGs are character collectors. You collect multiple characters, you form teams. So Diablo Immortal was the only success in a long time in that sense. So, well, it's going to be interesting to see how will Lost Ark and Path of Exile do on mobile.
Are they obviously sort of to some degree competing with Diablo Immortal for audience? Is that game now sort of old enough that there's sort of the people who have had sort of been playing that have sort of not had enough, but they're sort of like hungry now for a similar, well, not a similar experience, but another sort of RPG that's going to be deep?
I think that's a good question for sure. There might be players, of course, that are hungry to play, Path of Exile, for example. But then on the other hand, as there's a deep progression layers in Diablo Immortal. There's also players that are super invested in Diablo Immortal. They have spent their time, their money on getting this massive progressive characters. So it might also be hard for them to swap. So
you sort of want games that are sort of growing the market rather than just sort of competing within the market. I mean, I guess that's always the great goal for game designers is to take a genre and expand it, because that's when you really get sort of success, rather than just like, the cake's this big, we just need to take a bigger slice from someone else. That's sort of a harder thing to do, isn't it? Okay, so I guess another sort of traditional IP coming to mobile, Kalle, is Assassin's Creed Jade, which is, I mean, should be great, shouldn't it? Is that what you can tell me?
Yeah, I guess this connects to the RPG side of things as well. So definitely one of the most interesting games to follow next year. But at this point, there's actually not that much to tell about the game. Of course, we've seen some videos of the gameplay, and it looks exactly what you can expect from an Assassin's Creed title. So I suspect that side of things they probably can nail. And the game looks very good, of course, but definitely will be interesting to see what is their monetization approach going to be with this game. What kind of social elements are they going to have there? And most importantly, I would say that what is going to be their level of commitment to the live operations of this game. And it's actually interesting to look at the history of the Assassin's Creed franchise on mobile, because that's quite interesting. Like, this is technically speaking their 17th attempt on mobile with Assassin's Creed. So when it comes to Ubisoft, but of course many of those games were spin-offs of premium titles back in the day, like 2010, 2011, 2012, and stuff like that. But like also, like, just recently, a couple of years ago, they tried making, for example, an endless runner with that IP, with the Assassin's Creed free runners, for example. So definitely seems to be an IP that they want to utilize on mobile as well. So let's hope that they get it done with Jade this time around.
I can't say I've played all those 17 games. I've played some of them, but would you say this is sort of this is much more like the Assassin's Creed you would sort of type of game you'd expect on PC, console, on mobile, which did you say they've tended to sort of do things, genres within Assassin's Creed that would clearly work well on mobile? They've not really, it's obviously very expensive to make these games, and so I guess that's the interesting point for this one. This is like a console type game.
Definitely. So the marketing this far and the scale of things, if you look at the videos and stuff like that, it looks like that there's that level of focus for this game is on, it's something else when it comes to the stuff that they've done previously on mobile with Assassin's Creed. So yeah, very interesting one to follow.
The tricky thing is not necessarily making the sort of high end game that fits there. It's that success on mobile really comes through live ops, and as you sort of highlighted, that's not very clear, and that's I guess sometimes what console developers have not, they're just not set up in the way that mobile developers are to really sort of optimize those live ops.
Yeah, that is the sort of biggest, I guess, concern I would personally have when it comes to the long-term success of the title. But as said, like there's so little that we know at this point, so it's really speculative still.
But certainly one you would think there'll be headlines of when that game comes out, because every Assassin's Creed, it's almost everyone wants to check it out, even if they sometimes you get the feeling some people want to check it out to criticize it. What are we on to next? Wilhelm, you're going to talk about some more RPGs.
Yeah, so I think because now we're talking about these really high production value, like almost like console experiences, it's interesting to look at also like some other like upcoming titles. So you have Zenless Zone Hero from MiHoYo coming, so it's going to be like kind of like similar game that we had the Genshin Impact, but it's more of like this non-open world game. It's more about like RPG, like action RPG, where you're playing like these smaller instances, but it looks, of course, it's MiHoYo, so the game looks amazing. You have other kind of similar games as well coming, so Project Mugen, so it has kind of like similar style to it, and also really I want to highlight here that what's really interesting is that the theme of the games are a bit different than your usual RPGs. So these are more of like, instead of being the fantasy theme or sci-fi theme, they are more about this street fashion theme. I think this is also starting to rise in popularity in Japan and maybe in China as well. So it's interesting theme to look at for sure. And the third, really high production value, Wuthering Waves, which kind of like looks quite similar to Genshin. So it's really interesting when they if they get released next year. And really the big thing in those games, and like in many other of these games that we have mentioned already, is the crossplay. So crossplay has been, growing in popularity, and I definitely see crossplaying being a huge trend in 2024 as well with these upcoming games. You have lots of benefits. You are unifying the console, PC, mobile audiences, and it also helps, with the, we've been talking about the App Store fee bypassing, with the web stores, so you can better utilize those as well. So it's well, the crossplay AAA titles, coming to mobile, it's an interesting thing.
And would all those three come from APAC developers as well? So I guess it's because they're just so expensive to make those sort of titles that you sort of want to be making those from slightly lower cost regions.
That would have been actually my question to you guys. That do you know what's the sort of like common link between these titles that were just discussed? So yeah, they all come from Asia. So I totally agree that like, is it like I guess my question is that is it so that nowadays the Asian developers are the only one that have the muscle to compete in this RPG space, which seems to require the expectation levels are so high for this genre are they the only ones who can deliver nowadays?
Yeah, and then you need to nail kind of having the AAA game plus having the extreme mobile live ops combination to actually be super successful. So you need lots of like production value for that.
And I guess the other thing is people are interested in that because they've seen the success of stuff like Genshin, which was I think. And obviously an amazing game, $100 million or whatever to develop. But the success was amazing. It was really an outsized success. And as soon as you have one of those, is people are prepared to invest that amount of money, or some people are prepared to invest that amount of money to try and repeat it. But then after a few people don't repeat it and basically end up losing a lot of money, then people then sort of look for another opportunity maybe. So maybe the next year will be the high point of these sort of super expensive sort of 3D RPGs, or if they're successful, everyone will be making more of them, I guess, one or the other. Kalle, you want to talk about two games, Earth Revival and Fading City. Tell us about those. I think they're interesting.
Just brief mentions about these ones. So Earth Revival and Fading City, there are two China originated survival MMOs, so still continuing on the RPG tip here. coming to the global market next year. So Earth Revival is actually from Newverse, which has very, very, very strong Mass Effect vibes. And then Fading City from NetEase has you can see the influence from the Last of Us series, like evidently there. So why I want to mention these titles is basically like the main reason is the fact that there are publishers and developers out there, obviously, that are looking at AAA titles and AAA IPs in the West, which don't have tangible presence on mobile. And these developers see this as an opportunity to leverage those IPs indirectly. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you're an IP holder of a popular gaming franchise, you don't have a mobile presence, well, guess what might happen? It might be that someone else will sort of fill the void for you. And I'm afraid that these cases that I just mentioned, they won't be the last ones that we're gonna see. So of course it will be interesting to see when these are globally launched, that will they bump into some legislative issues, for example, because it is with these titles, like I was looking at some trailers that they had, for example, from the Earth Revival, which is the Mass Effect kind of game, like the editing on the trailers and stuff like that, it's exactly the same as the trailers were for like Mass Effect 3 back in 2009 or something like that. So that it was just like, it's really interesting if we're gonna see more of this. Let's just put it that way.
Yes, I guess it's you probably can't copyright how you cut your video, but there's other things you probably could do, isn't there?
Yeah. It's like where do you draw the line? But yeah, I would just say that like for all the IP holders out there, that like we're gonna see some. I think we're gonna see some interesting discussions going forward when it comes to this type of cases.
You say those are from Chinese developers, so is it enough that those games could just be released in China, which would obviously sort of maybe curtail some of the copycat sort of issues, and people just go, everyone sort of in China knows it's sort of inspired by Mass Effect or something, but there's a sort of different thing if you go global with it. I mean, they could just be successful within China, but maybe if they're sort of aggressive in their attitude, then they go, well, of course we can do it global, because that's,
Yeah, that's a good point. Earth Revival is actually already launched in China. It's a top 50 grossing title there. Yeah, it was just launched, I think, like 1 month ago or something like that. And yeah, it's very successful there. So yeah, I definitely, there's a point there that like operating these games in China, probably from legislative perspective, is much easier than when you then release them to the global and especially Western markets. So I think when that happens, yeah, let's see. Of course, I haven't played those games personally, so I'm not 100% sure what kind of things have been copied exactly. But looking at videos and trailers, it's very easy to see that what has been the source of inspiration for these games.
Yeah, everyone's influenced by something. Is the case whether you sort of cross the line. And also talking about sort of global launches, you wanted Honor of Kings. Is Honor of Kings? I thought this was out ages ago, but you're saying Honor of Kings isn't out.
This is a confusing one. This is a super confusing one for sure. So why I wanted to bring this up is that apparently there's again rumors that Honor of Kings, which if there's someone who doesn't know, is Honor of Kings is one of the biggest mobile games in the world, at least if you think about the games who have crossed the most. So there's rumors that it would get a global release in 2024. Honor of Kings was launched back in 2015 in China and has been a success story, as I said. Always been top 1 grossing game in China, practically. And a Western version of Honor of Kings called Arena of Valor was released back in 2016. So that's what gets us very confusing about this one. So, but that never received really a great success that at least would be comparable to Honor of Kings in China. But this new global version of Honor of Kings was soft launched actually in Brazil last summer. You can take a look at some performance numbers of the game. They're pretty modest when it comes to revenue and downloads. So yeah, really, like, it has been in the soft launch there for 6 months. So let's see what's gonna happen. But the rumors are that they're gonna, make a global launch of it. So let's see. But personally, I'm just a little bit confused about the sort of like the Tencent's plan here. So, are they going to run both Arena of Valor and Honor of Kings in the West, or will Arena of Valor be killed at some point, or will the Honor of Kings Western version ever actually be global launched? So, the mobile scene is very hard to enter, but I guess if someone can do it, then Tencent, of course, has the experience and resources to execute it. But then again, they sort of missed those expectations with Arena of Valor already. So I'm really confused about this myself as well.
Arena of Valor, it used to be in kind of high ranks at the launch, like at the launch at the beginning of the game, but yeah, it has like of course obviously now dropped away. They have really slowed down with the live ops of the game and the updates. They're like there's only like a couple of updates, new content per year, and they have really slowed down on that one. But well, it's interesting to see how it does against Mobile Legends, Bang Bang, and the Wild Rift, so two of the biggest mobile games in the West on mobile. So,
but I guess from their point of view, if it's just that they can consolidate the live ops and just have one live ops team doing both, then that maybe that's enough to give it another try.
It kind of makes more sense to also have the same like game with the same name as well, because they don't feel so separate titles. So, in terms of like let's say esports, which is big in these MOBAs. So
Wilhelm, shooters. We've talked a bit about racing games, but shooters are a perennial genre where everyone's launching and loads of stuff going on there. So what are we looking there?
Yeah, shooters definitely. It's one of the hardest genres to enter. It's still dominated by the big three games, Call of Duty Mobile, PUBG, and Free Fire in the West. But there's really, really promising games coming in 2024. First of all, Warzone Mobile, which I would say that game's strength, and so I would say why that would be successful is because it will have cross progression battle pass with the PC version, and of course the PC version is extremely popular game. So I think instead of directly competing against the mobile audience and against those big three, is that it can definitely bring the COD Warzone PC players to mobile, because let's say you have the battle pass plan, which is, by the way, in the PC version, the battle pass plan, it really takes time to progress because it's a time-based progression battle pass plan. So you progress it by just playing the game, like so time-based battle pass plan. It takes a lot of time to progress. So I personally, I wouldn't really mind to sometimes, hop on my couch, play some Warzone Mobile and continue the battle pass progression there so I can actually finish the battle pass in time. So I think that's a big strength that can really really work for them.
It's going back to your cross-platform thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Having the importance of crossplay, that it just gives you have an embedded audience there, so immediately that you're adding benefit to those people straight away.
At first, I was thinking that does it make sense to cannibalize the Call of Duty mobile audience, but then again, I guess maybe it is more beneficial then to have the players play the Warzone more than the Call of Duty mobile. I guess with Call of Duty mobile, was it Tencent that is the co-developer there gets a certain cut out of the profits there. So with Warzone, they're gonna get all the cash for themselves. So maybe that's something to incentivize them to focus on Warzone.
And then some other games, so Valorant and also Rainbow Six. So more of these tactical shooters, so slower paced games compared to the battle royale titles. The movement is more slower paced, is more tactical, and of course the time to kill is super fast. But it's really tactical. So I would say, like, right now there is none of those kind of games in the really high crossing ranks. I think the highest crossing one in the West is the Critical Ops, which is, I think, is amazing game. And I personally think those games are one of the best shooter genre that works on mobile because of the slower pace and more tactical movement that really works better on the touchscreen, I would say. So, like, for example, Valorant, it's a massive IP nowadays. It's super huge success on the PC. I don't know if maybe they will do similar, so have cross-progression battle pass plan. That would be like really work for them. And then, of course, lastly, I want to really mention the Division Resurgence. So a looter shooter type of game. We have not seen a looter shooter in a long time, like being successful in the West on the mobile in general. I'd say. I think it's gonna be tough to make it work because balancing this power progression shooter, it can be really tough. How do you balance the gameplay and the monetization parts? There has been one game that has kind of made it work. So Pixagon 3D, one of the actually oldest shooter games on mobile there is, that is still live and going really well. They actually have a power progression element, so they have been able to make it work. So Division Resurgence, I think they have a chance.
Yeah, as a bonus, I'm going to throw in just High Energy Heroes from Tencent. So we all know Apex Legends was cancelled, killed in the West, but Tencent actually made a very similar looking game, launched it in China this year, called High Energy Heroes. If you look at the UI, it's very similar to Apex Legends and stuff like that. The art style and aesthetics are a bit more leaning towards Asian anime looks and stuff like that. So, and it has performed pretty well in China still, I think, in top 50 grossing. So of course, I didn't find any evidence that it would get a global release, but who knows? Maybe it could. But yeah, definitely when talking about new shooter games, it's one to keep under radar.
Going back to what you were saying about looking at gaps in markets where existing games, clearly in this case, there isn't going to be an Apex Legends mobile because it's dead. So a team like Tencent, who've probably got loads of developers, worth a punt, isn't it? I mean, High Energy Heroes, that could work in the West, couldn't it? It's maybe not there. So plenty going on with shooters. Okay, let's talk a bit about trends now. We always talk about live ops, don't we? But let's do some live ops trends.
Yeah, so let's start with the obvious. So the cost, scope, and importance of live ops will obviously grow also in 2024. So if you're launching a new game, the sad news is that all your competitors already have their live ops machines running, so you really need to have that live ops strategy in place. To be more specific, we're seeing a lot of promotional collaboration events, so IP collaboration events in games, and being very important part of their live ops palette. So, for example, this year we see a lot of interesting ones in games like Stumble Guys, for example, with Monopoly events and Barbie collaboration events. And whenever I speak actually with our Honor of Kings analyst, so we mentioned Honor of Kings already in this podcast, she always says that there's some exciting IP collaboration event going on. And then would you, Wilhelm, agree with me that events just in general, they're becoming more sort of like surprising and exciting? So like putting out events that are like just collect 10 pieces of Colin Gandy and then reach this threshold and get a reward. It's just it's like we've seen that. And what is really resonating right now is that we're seeing more of these like more non-traditional events and mini games events and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would say that definitely the sort of the kind of like the production values of events are getting higher, especially in these newer type of events. So comparing, as Kalle mentioned, comparing a simple task event where there's literally just a task, do something in the core gameplay, get points, get rewarded. Comparing that to an event, let's say, where you do something in the core gameplay, then you play, let's say, a mini game with that, or build something like in the event meta game or something, or even have an interesting UI or a theme. It makes it so much more interesting and engaging for the players. Some really good examples are Phase 10. They run these themed events every month, and they have exactly that. So there's always a new mechanic tied to the event sort of loop, and a new team as well. And also like this more of this interesting one-off events, and going like taking sort of trends from other games like Lily's Garden. They have run this makeover event, so which kind of like takes inspiration from the project makeover, and instead of just you playing the match 3 core gameplay, you're getting points and rewarded, you're playing match 3 core gameplay, then you're using the points you get from that to kind of like do a makeover for the game's story character, and depending how far you get into the makeover, the story ending of the event gets better and better. So there's lots of these interesting elements to it compared to traditional task event.
Definitely plays into the cost, scope, and importance of live ops. It's going to grow when it just becomes a sort of games within itself, or extra special rewards. I mean, that's just everything is becoming sort of complicated. And it's interesting you said, Wilhelm, that a lot of those ones are social as well, the events now. So you're it's not just about you, it's sort of deepening the core community of the game by having by embedding people into things they're doing together.
Yeah, you have social elements, you have meta elements, you have a story, many of those, and interesting stuff for sure. And then like another trend is definitely, I would say, in terms of events, is the games are finding new ways to monetize their events. So like we've seen past year, we've seen lots of premium reward tracks in events. So like these mini battle passes inside events, monetizing some of the events rewards. And then we've seen that becoming more popular. And then we've also seen these kind of like event boosts. So doing something or purchasing something to boost your progression inside the event. That's usually what is lately been like happening a lot, is sort of if you have this event skin or this event character, your progression during the event is sort of doubled. So for example, actually Modern Warfare 3 that just got released on PC, they are running events like that actually right now. So if you're purchasing the single one unique operator that is promoted in the event, your progression is faster. But so those are kind of like what's already going on. But then what we have just recently seen, and I definitely see this, becoming more popular in 2024, is this kind of like this pay-gated content. So events being locked behind a paywall. So for some examples is Last Fortress, so one of the top 4X strategy games. You have to purchase this premium building in the game to actually access this minigame event. So the only way to access an event is you purchase this premium building, which costs $50. Then on State of Survival, another, one of the other super successful 4Xs, they had this Resident Evil collaboration event. And to play some of the events inside the huge set of events, you actually had to pull this Resident Evil character from a gacha. That's the only way to participate in the event and get anything. And then last really interesting example, Free Fire. They had this top-up event. So meaning top-up events mean that you have to spend or purchase certain amount of premium currency in the game. And that way you would unlock this huge set of different events. So a whole massive set of events was locked on you spending or purchasing premium currency. So pay-gated content is, I definitely see, going to be a trend.
I find that very interesting because it's like going back to the roots of the live ops in like AAA premium titles. I see this as a sort of form of a DLC where you have gameplay content locked behind a purchase or a paywall. Of course, the mechanisms are here not so straightforward and stuff like that, but it's sort of like DLC in a sense.
Definitely sounds like one to look forward to, or check out how it's happening in 2024. And then last one, I guess we wouldn't be allowed to do a podcast like this without mentioning AI. I don't know how deep we want to go into it because there's obviously some very sort of obvious things we understand about sort of Gen AI and how that's impacting the sector, but I guess none of us are deep experts to exactly wheedle out what's exactly going to happen. But how do we think AI is going to, Gen AI stuff is going to change things? Is it? I mean, maybe the contrary thing, is it actually going to change stuff in 2024, or is it just speeding up game development and making stuff cheaper, and we don't actually notice it in games per se?
Yeah, it's like you said, like we're definitely not the experts, but it's always fun to speculate. So let's speculate. So, but yeah, and I think it's of course like talking about 2024, like you just have to touch upon the topic of AI, I guess, and it surely has replaced blockchain and metaverse as the gaming industry buzzwords, right? So, and rightly so. I mean, the potential to disrupt how games are made is frankly speaking huge. So if we, for example, think about the high level implications and what it means to the industries, if developing games will get much quicker and much less complex. And I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, obviously, but it's already, if you think about it, it's already ridiculously hard to find an audience to your game like every day there's 500 games released to the Apple App Store. There's 40 games released to Steam every single day. And with AI coming into the equation, I think these numbers will explode. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this will affect the marketing side of things and the UA landscape when the competition is going to get even fiercer and fiercer.
Yeah, and of course, the UI is a really good point for sure. And of course, creating game content might become much easier, faster. So of course, might affect live ops. I don't know if we're gonna see all the casual games have massive live ops like COD Mobile or something like that. Maybe we will see something like that. And also, talking about just the scale of games that you can create. So we talked about earlier about the Genshin type of games like the ZLSO Zero and those games, which require massive amount of workforce to create all that the huge large worlds and the content there. So if that becomes easier, you can scale massive worlds. Could we see more of these open world type of games in the market? Could we see maybe the MMORPG genre doing a massive comeback in the future? Can we see like more of these metaverse type of games actually coming to the live? I don't know if it's going to be already in the 2024, but forward to that, might something interesting might happen there.
Whether AI just sort of allows people to speed up what they're already doing, which obviously it will do, is that going to be the core sort of result, at least in 2024, or is it going to allow sort of totally new sorts of content to be made that couldn't have been made before, which I guess is sort of a harder, AI probably won't come up with that itself, maybe it will, but those are harder things to come up with. So is it sort of just sort of accelerating existing trends, or is it sort of coming up with totally new things?
One thing I want to add to this, that at GameRefinery we're obviously always on the lookout for any sort of like evidence of AI generated content in games. And in China we've seen it in use in the currently in the top MMO in the market called Nishui Han, which is from NetEase. So they have used these large language models to generate at least certain amount of the narrative content that they have in the game. So they have used they have used AI to help them to design the narrative there. So will definitely be interesting. And then I guess what I also believe is that this will result probably in even faster copying of game features and art styles and all kinds of assets that we have in the game. So if you can just make prompts like, please generate a Clash Royale like battle pass for my game, and one click and it's there, that's going to be quite groundbreaking.
Also, the other thing with like this that comes in is it's not the fact that sort of you can see how it's going to make all games better, but I think it's hard for the individual developer to see how it makes them gives them a competitive advantage. If everyone has access to the same tools, then maybe everything gets better, but how does that make your game stand out from all the other ones, particularly if there's going to be sort of loads more games? I guess that's the really tricky thing that developers are going to have to come to terms with is what's their competitive advantage in that sort of landscape. I guess we'll have to ask ChatGPT to see if it can tell us. Cool. So plenty to look forward to. Thank you for all the games as well. It's always good to get sort of some titles we can sort of start checking out and look forward to. But thank you for your expertise, Wilhelm and Kalle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to you for watching, listening to the podcast, however you are consuming it. Of course, every episode we are delving into what's going on in the mobile game space, which is the most dynamic and the largest gaming sector. So we hope you are enjoying the shows. Obviously, do subscribe to get all our episodes, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.